Hello, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of Following the Energy. So if you're new to what I'm doing 14 days of following the energy in life and business. And I was pinged by following the energy. So by following the inspired downloads, drops that just feel light and expansive, that's how I tend to create my life. And so I wanted to talk more about it because I get a lot of questions around this from my clients, and these are some of the tools that have created the most ease in my life. So hello everybody, thanks for jumping on. So I have yesterday's is up on my IG, so I'm going to do 14 days. The plan is in a row, and I'll also drop them on my YouTube because I know sometimes it's easier to watch these longer format things on there. So yesterday was all about awareness, and each day is going to kind of build upon itself. So definitely check them out if you're kind of getting confused, but also feel free to drop questions as I'm chatting. So yesterday was all about awareness and getting an understanding of how your awareness functions. And this is similar to intuition, downloads, and intuitive hits, things like that. It's how you perceive energy. And we need to be really mindful of this because this is what will inform us of what to choose, of what's going to create greater. So the way awareness is used in psychology is the idea of being aware of the present moment. However, as I'm using it is a bit different in the sense of you have awarenesses coming to you all the time. It's just like whether or not we're acknowledging them in the sense of energy. So once you have that down, it's like, well, okay, wow, my life can get a little bit easier because everything that I've made mine maybe isn't. So definitely go check out day 1 again, because I often encourage folks to also listen to calls like multiple times because you will hear things at a different level. So let's jump into day 2. I want to talk about overwhelm because it's something that often stops folks and gets them totally paralyzed. So how we're typically taught about overwhelm is that we have too much going on. It's almost like too much in the space up here, too much going on up here. And so then we can't choose. And so that keeps us totally stuck because it's not quite what's happening. The initial impression is that we're disempowered to the overwhelm, that there's so much going on, I can't control it all, and now I'm just stuck and I gotta go like sit on the couch and binge watch like Jersey Shore or something like that, right? What if something else was happening? What if you were getting a ton of energetic information at one time and you just haven't been taught how to sort it all out, so to speak? Let me give you an example. So this will happen to me frequently where I'll get a download, and I'll explain what that is. When somebody asks me a question. So when somebody asks me a question, like generally when I'm facilitating a group or something like that, they'll ask me a question and I'll get this like flood of information that could just go a million different ways. Because I'm getting that, well, they need to know this about that, they need to know this about that, they need to know that about that, but what's the most important thing? And it's like I could go in a million different directions. Some folks might see it like an ADHD brain. And I have to look at what can I choose in that moment. Now, what normally happens is people go into making themselves wrong. I'm overwhelmed, I have too much information, I don't know the right thing to choose, and freeze and go paralyzation. And what's happening is a ton of energetic information is coming through, and then people go into judgment about getting it right, about needing to show up in the right way, to say the right thing, and just be right in general. And what does the judgment create but a trauma response. Please get this. Not a ton of people talk about this. Judgment creates trauma responses. Judgment puts us in fight or flight responses. Judgment puts us in freeze responses, right? Because it activates the nervous system. And something we talked about yesterday was when we ask an open-ended question, it's actually really relaxing on the nervous system because it gets us out of judgment. So that's what the process of what people call overwhelm. They get a ton of information, a lot's going on, they judge themselves, and then they're paralyzed. However, what if you, being an infinite being, are just aware? What if you're getting a download? A download in the form of a ton of information that you couldn't explain in one sentence. Meaning that you get the entire movie series, let's say like Lord of the Rings because they're really long, the extended version. You get the entire series in one clip. Do you know how many hours that is? That is like hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and lots of stimulus and lots of things to keep in mind, all in one clip. That's how fast you work. You are not taught this. Because energy is the speed of light. And you can get that information like, whew. And what happens is then we're just so trained to make ourselves wrong and be like, we'll have to, I'm talking to someone, so I got to keep talking and I got, right? Rather than, and we go into all this judgment and we freeze. Versus, what if instead you could just take a moment? Take a moment and acknowledge, oh, wow. Okay, I'm having a download. Oh, wow. I'm having a big awareness. Oh, wow. I need a second. I will take moments in my group. I literally was just facilitating my Obliterate Doubt call too, and someone asked me something, and I took a moment to go, okay, yes, okay, and then respond, right? Because it's like all the information was coming in, and I just needed a moment to like put it all together and deliver it. Yet if I made myself wrong for taking the space to perceive the download, then I can't deliver that information. I can't give the true awareness that might help somebody. So what if instead, as you received all that information, you got out of wrongness? You just allowed it to happen. You acknowledged it. Let me know what's coming up for folks, because I already get that there's like, people are like, what's going on? What is she saying? I'm a little confused. Feel free to ask some questions if something's pinging you about this. Because I'm sure it's happened to you before, where it's like that flood of information comes and you go to making yourself wrong about it. Versus, what am I aware of? Right? That entire movie series in one clip. It's a ton of information to perceive and receive. Right? A ton. Oh, I'm so grateful. Yeah, it's a ton of information. And so it's like, even right now, I'm like, okay, more is coming through. Would you allow yourself to take those moments rather than make yourself wrong for not always being present in this reality? Right? Because it's like so much, and especially for my neurodivergent folks who are so energetically in tune and sensitive to a ton of different information at any given time, then there's a lot of wrongness about the like dissociation, right? Common trauma response of like, oh, I disconnected from this reality and it's bad and it's a coping mechanism because I got to protect myself, et cetera, et cetera. What if it's like you are reading a different language that's coming in? Like someone may be talking to you, but you're also getting all this information of a different energy, and it's almost like you're having to be fluent in multiple energies at once. Right? And it's like, so it can be challenging to be present, talking to someone, and then also receiving all this information. So what if you even just communicated that to someone? Hey, I'm having a download. Can you take a second? And just allowed yourself to perceive the information. Because I get that we've been so dynamically taught that we don't have these awarenesses of energy as much as we do, like the capacities that we have. I sense the download after I have this space for this from the situation, or is that just processing the info? Well, it could be that when you're not initially tuned in, like this stuff happens so fast, and it's very easy for us to kind of, I don't want to say bypass it, go by it so quickly because we've trained ourselves to just ignore it, that then when we come to some space, it's like, oh wait, I had all this information. Now I have the space to look at it. But what if you gave yourself the space in the moment to perceive it? What would that create? It takes me so long to process anything new, but super interesting. Yeah, and so it's kind of like I'm already hearing like what's wrong about how long it takes you to process information. What's wrong about it? So what's right about it? Because if you started to get out of judgment, and this is huge, you started to get out of judgment, your life will change. Your life will change. Because it's literally, if we're perceiving over 60,000 thoughts a day, and they're in some form of right, wrong, good, or bad, that is like turning up the nervous system constantly. So what would it create for you to allow yourself the time to process what you're going through? Okay, so folks are asking, what energy are you talking about? Everything's energy. Everything's energy, right? All my plants behind me, they're energy. Everything's energy. And thoughts, everything you're perceiving is energy. And so when you get a ton of information all at once, that's energy. And so something I work with a lot of folks on is called energy fluency, which is just basically returning back to what you know. Returning back to your original language, your first language was that. But we're taught to ignore it and suppress it. And so when I say following the energy, I mean following what you are aware of. Following what you are perceiving. So the way I make choices in life, in business, is following those downloads that are light and expansive versus heavy and contracted. Trusting the energy that comes up. Yeah. So it's like, and trusting your ability to perceive and receive it. Right? Even if, this is the hard part, even if it's giving you different data than what your ego has decided is right or wrong. That's the thing. That's where we go into the rub. It's kind of like, oh, but I thought it should be this, and I should choose this, and this is the right thing to choose. But I'm gaining awareness that it's not going to create a thing. And that's where we got to get out of functioning from this is the right thing to choose, the wrong thing to choose, versus a yes-no universe, which is just, this is going to create greater. Cool, I'll choose that. But there's not attachment to it. There's not significance to it. Because you are aware of possibilities that a choice will create before you can actually see what it will create. I never understood energy until I did plant medicine. It's so fascinating, and once you understand, it makes a world of difference. Yeah. Same for processing time, and the words seem to be stuck, and I don't reply in a timely manner. Yeah, right? Because it's like everyone's processing is going to be different based on how much stimulus they perceive. And some people are just way more sensitive to it. So of course their processing time is going to look slower. But we're always looking at how that's wrong. And yes, sometimes there can be things going on, like physiological imbalances or whatever, right, that are contributing to this. And it's really this process of getting out of the wrongness. Like pretty much any tool I teach, there's the working on letting go of the judgment piece. Had this week, was on a date, kept feeling like the guy wasn't responding to my personal things I shared, changed the subject, I felt unheard, felt emotionally safe with him to share, so I said, hey, and let him know. Yeah, it's kind of like, what are you aware of that you've decided, well, this is the right thing to choose, but then you ignore the information that came in, you ignore the downloads, right? And we're just taught dynamically to suppress our awareness. So I would say with starting with this piece, with the downloads, is to just allow yourself some space. Like take a beat. Take a step back and just allow yourself to process it. And for me, it's been such a gift to see other facilitators do this, even like within classes or whatnot. Just allow the space for information to come through and not feel the need to just constantly fill every moment. To be them, to be different, to allow yourself to work with energy and how it works for you. Oh my God, so many big conversations, because these downloads, especially if you're an entrepreneur, are huge in informing your next choices in business. So that is like specifically what we're going to be talking about in Activate, which is my early entrepreneur membership. That's a 6-month commitment. And our next month is going to be Let Your Biz Tell You What to Do, which is basically like, instead of you having to make the decisions, like communicate with your business. What information energetically can your business give you so that you don't have to be the one making all the choices? And it's like, wow, we're in Get Seen on Socials this current month topic, and these trainings, they're so powerful. Like, this is the information I wish I had right when I started. I got it pretty quickly on, like probably 6 months in, but like, I sense that like so much would have changed and shifted, and it would have started a lot sooner had I had these conversations and this awareness that I wasn't constantly making myself wrong and looking to people to show me how to do things step by step versus learning to trust myself. So that one's going to reopen September next week. So stay tuned to my stories because I think there'll be also a welcome call next week to chat more about it. And then also, if you already have a business, Energy Flows for CEOs is the mastermind to be in, because it has like these really deep level conversations, this energetic information for you to get to apply to your business, like specifically. So if you have something that's already going on, I took a beta group through this and like took all their information of where they were really stuck and came up with all the very specific trainings for it. So that one is so amazing because it's like those calls, instead of training calls, they're coaching facilitation, like hot seat coaching calls. And then they have the trainings on the side to watch in their own time. So lots of options to jump in at the end of the year and just like rocket the end of the year with your business. So DM me if you have questions or one pings you. I'd love to have you in. All right, I will see you tomorrow for day 3. We'll see where we go.